Frank J. Avella here with Awards Daily. I am beyond thrilled to be here with Oscar winner Penelope Cruz to discuss her deeply affecting new film, L'Immensity. Welcome and good morning, Penelope.
Good morning. How are you? Nice to see you.
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to see you again.
You too.
Last time we chatted, you were playing a very different kind of mother in Parallel Mothers, but Clara is quite protective, like Janice was. Tell me about why you wanted to play her.
I was a big fan of Emanuele Crialese's work, especially with Respiro. That movie had a strong impact on me. And then he sent me this script, and I was blown away by it. And I felt like this need to be a part of it, and to play this woman that is so interesting. And then when I met him, it was one of those times when the connection is beyond anything you can imagine, when you are like finding a friend that it feels like you're finding a friend that you haven't seen in a long time, but actually it was the first time we ever were together, and it was really, really strong. And I knew we were beginning something together. I hope we continue to work together. For sure he will be in my life. He has become a good friend and somebody really interesting. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to talk to him, but he's very, very, very interesting human being.
I have years ago, and he's fascinating.
Yes. He's so transparent and clear and no bullshit, and it's just an incredible point of view in life and no judgment, and in some ways reminds me of Pedro. Also has a great sense of humor and incredible sensibility.
Well, that's wonderful that you bonded so well. I wanted to talk about Clara. There's a moment in the film that I think speaks volumes to who she is, and that's when she gets under the table to play with the kids. For me, it's so significant because she really is one of them.
Yes, she's looking for escape. She's miserable in that life. She loves her kids, but she's been a victim of domestic violence, and there was no plan B. Like for so many women in the world today, still like there's no plan B, and that is her escape to keep a little bit of her sanity, is to go under the table, which is such a beautiful metaphor of that's where the fun happens. That's where the kids are. That's where she wants to be. She feels like they understand her better than any adult, and she understands them. She doesn't want to have to understand the adults that she's surrounded by, because it's all about suppression and oppression towards her. And I agree with you, that scene almost has no dialogue, but it says so much about the prison that this woman is experiencing.
Yeah. And she does understand her kids, and not only is she different from the other moms, but she is different in the sense that she loves to celebrate the uniqueness of her children instead of insisting that they're like everybody else, and that's rare too.
Yeah, also maybe because she knows that she is not like everybody else either. Yeah. And she has this creativity, and probably if she would have had the opportunity, she would have tried to be an actress or a singer or a dancer or anything related to art. But all she had was that little TV, that tiny square, like through there herself and her daughter would escape and fly and imagine that they were Adriano Celentano or Rafaela Carrà or Patti Bravo or all these people that they admire so much and that they gave them so much happiness. It was like, for me, it was like having two different lives, the real world and the hope that someday they could break that glass of that television and jump into another reality that made more sense for them.
Those sequences, I really related to them because growing up, I had a similar fantasy world. They were
Me
extraordinary. You
too.
too?
That's why I relate also. Yes, I would spend a lot of hours watching TV, but we didn't have a cinema, a theater nearby. So we had whatever was on TV and whatever I could rent with the Betamax machine that my parents bought. And that became like my biggest hobby. And it was like a platform of dreams. It was like, okay, through here, I can explore so many different realities. And that would help me decide what is it that I want to do when I'm older.
Those scenes were were they enjoyable to shoot?
The dance numbers,
Yeah,
the musical numbers,
yeah.
they were incredible because all my life I was playing homage at home to Rafaela Carrà. My grandmother would take me to the park and ask me to do that for the neighbors. So she was very important in our life, even if I never met her. So to be able to play her as Clara in her imagination, to put together that number of Rafaela and Adriano Celentano, that is so cool. That number is so modern. Like I think 3 centuries from now, you could still look at that musical number and say, okay, this is completely new and cool and modern and incredible. And the fact that he wanted to shoot the number exactly like the real TV number, shot by shot. It was, imagine, so much fun for us because I trained ballet for 18 years in my life.
Oh.
To be able to do that with all these kids, all these dancers, and to play Rafaela was really like a dream come true.
In the Italian culture, the mama is everything. I mean, it certainly was for me. Was it that way for you growing up in Spain?
Yes, I think it's a very similar culture with what the mother represents in Italy or in Spain. I think we have so many things in common. The kids don't leave home so early, like in other places in the world where it's like, I don't know, at 16, 17. This is very different. I'm happy that it's that way. But family and the figure of the mother, extremely like almost like this heroic, iconic figure, but it's really seen like that at home.
Yeah, yeah. And poor Clara, though, is trapped in this abusive relationship, as we mentioned, like so many women back then and today. How do you prepare for those intense scenes?
Well, my attention was always on the kids. It's 3 kids, 3 actors. The little one was very little, and even the other ones, like 10, 12. So we all had to be very careful that this was an experience that would teach them things, but that would not traumatize them in any way. And I have to say, Emanuele was incredible with the children, because for me, every time I'm working with a kid, I try to develop a real relationship with them so that they trust me, so that if anything goes wrong on set, they can come to me and they can feel that I'm a friend. So I always dedicate a lot of time to that. Even if they are babies, like in Parallel Mothers, I build a relationship with those babies. They would have to take those babies away from me at the end of the day because it was so hard to separate. But I think it was important to always, when you are working with kids, to build that relationship. Emanuele did a lot of weeks of rehearsal, especially like for us to have that time. So I was very happy to be working with someone that also was valuing that, the importance of building a real relationship with those kids and really protect them on set.
It's some great moments, like when you turn the hose on the women who are beating their kids. I love that. It just spoke volumes about who this woman was.
Yes, because all the time she wants to break the rules because the rules are horrible and don't make sense to her. Like even later when the daughter says, no, you can hit me too, like the other mothers. And they're they're laughing together at the other mothers because they have no other ways, you know, like that happened a lot in those years, but it's still like, still was what it was, a very abusive thing.
Yeah.
So you see the bonding that she has with her children, even if everyone around thinks that she's crazy, but maybe she's the most sane from all of them. She just has too much pain, and she's like they're suppressing her soul. They don't let her breathe. So of course that's what makes her like lose it at the end, when she cannot even be at home and she has to separate and go to a hospital because she falls into a deep depression, because there is only so much one can handle.
Yeah, and even her relationship with Andrea Audrey, I think she's the only person in that child's life who even attempts to understand who she is.
Yeah, I feel she understands her, but they don't let her. She doesn't have the power as her mother. She doesn't, in that family, she doesn't have the power to allow this son to be more himself. She doesn't have the power to do it, and that's very frustrating for her.
This is always a silly question, but I wanted to ask it for this film because I was wondering myself, what do you think happens at the end for her in her life?
I think when she comes back to the house, there is so much sadness in her eyes, and so much weakness that is hard to imagine that can have an optimistic future. But I have to think that it does. I have to think that she find a way, like, to have one of the first divorces of that time in that place, and maybe be able to have a life where she can be herself and she can help her children to be themselves.
That's gorgeous, actually. I have to ask you about the much deserved Oscar nomination you received last year. I want to know, were you surprised?
I was, especially because, you know, it was at the same time my husband and I for different movies, and my movie was with Almodovar, and I've been nominated twice with movies with him, and both in Spanish. The other two times was in English, but these two times in Spanish, it means so much, because it's not something very easy, and I felt just so grateful and so happy to be able to experience that together, you know, being there on the same table, Pedro, my husband, and I, and celebrating so many things together. Even if I was completely exhausted and a zombie, because I've just had COVID. I've just like recovered, and I was like completely gone. But at least I could make it. I arrived there. You know, like a week before that, I didn't know what was going to happen.
Oh my God! Well, nobody noticed, thank God.
But I feel like I wish I would have had more energy to enjoy things more, no, to experience every moment more. But no, I could not complain because I was healthy. It was a tough one, but then I was healthy.
Penelope, I want to thank you for taking the time out. I have just one more question. I know you're coming up in Ferrari. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So what I can tell you is that Michael Mann is a total machine, that in everyone around him, like after 12 hours a day, everyone can be exhausted, but he's never tired. I don't know how he does it. It's incredible to see him work, to see him set up the shots, to see him, to listen to the explanations about what's behind every line, every intention. Is really one of the masters. And I have not seen the movie because he says he will show me when I am with him in LA. So we'll see him together. But it's been a very intense and very, very, very interesting experience. You learn from him so much.
Well, I look forward to it, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you so much, Penelope.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.